Next presentation is done by Mrs. Sandeepanie. She is going to talk about different factors affecting on employee motivation in Sri Lankan apparel manufacturing sector.
Good evening, everybody. Today I am going to present to you one of an interesting topic which is related to the motivation, as well as this is much more significant for the development of manufacturing organizations, especially the apparel manufacturing sector. So the different factors affecting on employee motivation in Sri Lankan apparel manufacturing sector. So you can see the flow of my presentation. First, we'll move to the introduction part. The apparel manufacturing industry is one of the most significant sector in terms of revenue generation, as well as employment generation and investment. So when consider the apparel manufacturing sector, there are key segments covered: kids clothing, menswear, women's wear, bridal wear, men's wedding wear, and intimate apparels. When consider the export market of the apparel industry, so it can be divided into knit and woven. The China ranked as the top ranker when considering knit export market. But unfortunately, the Sri Lankan apparel manufacturing sector is facing numerous deteriorating problems. According to this figure, the diagram, you can see that very high labor turnover rates and very high employee absenteeism rates and poor working conditions, as well as restrictive labor regulations. So what happened with such kinds of deteriorating situations? Ultimately, the organizational productivity will be get down. So what happened finally? The international competitiveness will be reduced. So you can see, according to these tables, the higher labor turnover rates and higher absenteeism rates throughout the country in various provinces. And throughout my research study, so with the observations as well as with the interweaving techniques, I have identified such kinds of problems as you can see in the view. So, employees who are especially in the shop floor level, middle operative category, they are highly regretting with their salaries, incentive schemes, and their profit bonus systems. Not only the financial motivators, they are highly regretting with non-financial motivators as well. So, why such kind of higher employee absenteeism rates? Why such kinds of higher employee turnover rates? Why employees are highly regretting on financial motivators and non-financial motivators in Sri Lankan apparel manufacturing industry? So throughout my research, I wanted to find the answers for these kinds of questions. So in my research, based on the previous literature surveys, so when consider the motivation is defined in 1965 Atkinson as the motivation as the contemporary immediate influence on the direction, vigor, and persistence of action. When consider in order to understand the motivation, we can reach to 5 major approaches: Maslow's need hierarchical theory, Herzberg's 2 factors theory, Bloom's expectancy theory, Adams' equity theory, and Skinner's reinforcement. So based on the previous researchers, in 1978, they identified various symptoms point to low employee motivation. As well as in 2011, Manzoor identified that empowerment and recognition have a positive effect on employee motivation in manufacturing sector in Pakistan. Other than that, in Sri Lanka in 2006, Veera Singh identified that recognition, job security, social needs, and supervisors' characteristics strongly impact on employee motivation, that is in private sector service organizations. Based on the previous researchers as well as based on these theories, content theories and process theories related to the employee motivation, my research study was a deductive approach one. So I would like to move with you the methodology. There are 3 hypotheses in my study, as you can see in the view. So the objectives, my key objective was to identify the effort made by the authority in order to improve the employee motivational levels through a sound motivational mechanism. And when considered the specific objectives, I wanted to find out the factors affecting on employee motivation, and I wanted to find out the different existing motivational levels in various designational categories in Sri Lankan apparel manufacturing industry. So we'll move to the conceptualization. This is the conceptual framework of my study. So in here the motivation is acted as the dependent variable. There are 3 independent variables: the organizational factors, personal factors, and the interaction factors. So there are dimensions, sub-variables for organizational factors and personal factors, as you can see in the slide. Then we'll move to the operationalization. In operationalization, the first independent variable 1, personal factors affecting on employee motivation, was examined in 4 key dimensions. So those are perception of behavior, interest, attitudes, and needs. So these dimensions were acted as the first order factors, and then the personal factors is acted as the second order factor in the model. So you can see the operationalization of various dimensions under independent variable 1. The perception of behavior, the indicator is understanding the individual capability. So it was measured by these 3 measurement criteria. And then the interest, the indicator is commitment, and the attitude, the indicator is psychological aspect of the workers. Then it was measured by these 4 measurement criteria. The needs, the future expectation is the indicator. So it was measured through these measurement criteria. Then I would like to move with you the operationalization of independent variable 2, the organizational factors. So there were dimensions. The first dimension is the rewards. So rewards, the indicator is the worker satisfaction. You can see the measurement criteria here. So the task design, the comfort of the job is the indicator. Then you can see the measurement criteria. The co-workers, the indicator is unity among each other. Then supervision, the flexibility of the management. You can see the measurement criteria. So the communication, the interrelationship is the indicator. You can see there are few different measurement criteria. So the feedback, responses of employees is the indicator. You can see the measurement criteria here. The third variable is independent variable, the interaction factor. So in interaction factors, actually, mainly I did by getting 2 different hierarchical levels, 2 different categories, employment categories, the top level and middle shop floor category, and find out whether the organizational factors and personal factors are tally with each other or else clashed with each other. So the selected methodology was a questionnaire-based survey. So various hierarchical levels, top, middle, shop floor level, and different employment categories were selected: administrative, technical, operative in apparel sector. So the questionnaire had 4 key parts accordingly. So I applied the interviewing methods as well as observational methods as well throughout my research period. Then my sample is 500 employees. So I have selected 10 large-scale apparel manufacturing organizations which were Government Without Guild certified ones, as well as which had branch plants throughout the country. So the data were checked, the reliability was checked by Cronbach's Alpha. So my population was the entire apparel manufacturing industry in Sri Lanka. So the total heads 250,000 in total entire apparel manufacturing sector in Sri Lanka. So I applied non-random stratified convenient judgment sampling technique. Then the sampling was done among large-scale apparel manufacturing organizations with branch plants throughout the country, as I told. So for the convenience of the researcher for the data collection, I selected the plants which are located in Colombo, which are having branch plants throughout the country. So next we'll move one of the most important part of my research, data presentation. You can see the status of overall motivation in different organizational hierarchical level. According to this graphical illustration, you can see the top level employees are highly motivated than middle lower category. As well as you can see the different status of overall motivation in different employment categories of top level. So administrative employees and technical employees. So the technical employees are motivated more higher with comparison to the administrative category. So when we move to the shop floor and middle category, administrative employees are motivated more higher with comparison to technical and operative category. So when consider the apparel manufacturing sector, the shop floor level is one of the key significant part for the productivity. So the machine operators, checkers, line leaders, those designation category people are included in here. So you can see different motivated levels of these employees in these categories. So line leaders are highly motivated with comparison to the machine operators and checkers. So next we'll move to the next key significant part, the data analysis. The first hypothesis I tested different organizational factors significantly affect on employee motivation. So I used the multiple linear regression method. So according to the significance value, the p-value is lower than 0.05, so the null hypothesis was rejected and alternative hypothesis was accepted. So the different organizational factors significantly affect on employee motivation in Sri Lankan apparel manufacturing sector according to the significance value. So you can see the coefficients for different dimensions. I selected rewards, task design, co-workers, supervision, communication and the feedback. According to the statistical analysis, in multiple linear regression, the feedback, co-workers, task design, supervision and rewards significantly affect on employee motivation in organizational categories. So the communication does not. Then hypothesis 2, in order to check different personal factors.
Time is over.
Okay, yes. Then finally the conclusion. My conclusion is actually according to the key objective, there is a significant effort made by the authority in order to enhance the motivated levels in Sri Lankan apparel manufacturing sector. Then my recommendations to attend to the employees much more individualized than the team, and during we are rewarding to the employees, we have to look on the long-term performances than the short-term performances. So these are my references. So with such kinds of strategies, we could be able to enhance the motivation of the employees, and ultimately we can enhance the organizational development. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Right. Thank you. Again, interesting area, the motivation of especially garment sector. That is a crucial problem in Sri Lanka. She's talked about that. Thank you very much for the presentation.